Alright, Diablo 4 players, let's talk about Season 5 as it stands after the PTR. What are the best classes to look forward to in Season 5 if things don't change? Now, we're going to probably expect to see changes, but I'm getting constantly asked, what's the best thing to maybe start looking at for Season 5? Maybe you are an Eternal Realm player, and you're really just interested in maybe collecting the gear now, or you just want to kind of have that knowledge ahead of time, kind of what looks like it's going to be good. So keep in mind, I'm counting all of the different bugs and interactions in the PTR as it stands right now. So, as far as what I think is going to be the top tier classes to kind of look at, is going to be a lot of different things with Andariel. That's what the little poison imbue represents here, because the build website for like the tier maker doesn't have every single skill, so some of them take them with like a grain of salt, as I'll mention what is actually going to be the best. So a lot of people just kind of want to know what's the top tier stuff. So Andariel Rogue will be absolutely top tier. They're buffing that thing for I don't know what reason, and they're nerfing a lot of other things, so that build is going to be emerging, and there might be other Andariel builds that will see some play, specifically representing the Flay Barbarian. That is what is in the red over there, and I would say that is a definite top tier build. The two best boss killer builds will probably be going to be Andariel's as well as some sort of Flay Barbarian. Now, Chain Lightning is kind of interesting because it could be really good for bosses, and I want to say that they're probably going to buff it a lot, and they're probably going to nerf some interaction with the Crown of Lucian, as it's doing some stuff that is more than likely unintended. However, there's been so many things on the sorcerers that have been bugged for literally this since the launch of the game that hopefully they can actually fix. But if Chain Lightning stays the way it is an absolute S tier build, probably one of the best builds in the entire game for all content, and that's boss killing, that's open world content. There's nothing that even comes close. Even the Whirlwind Barbarian will absolutely lose to the Chain Lightning Sorceress when we're talking about speed, because when you're doing Helltides, and you have to do Helltides because AzureWrath is super rare, the Chain Lightning build, it just tags everything so fast. It is by a long shot the best. Plus, you're playing Sorceress, so you have access to the teleport, which is pretty much the best mobility skill in the entire Diablo series of the game. But specifically, that's really good. Now, I also put Whirlwind Barb. You can run the Bleed variant that is already really strong with Tyrael's Might. And the reason why I'm putting it in the S tier, even though in theory it does kind of less boss DPS than the rest of the stuff, is because doing pit clears is so incredibly smooth with the Whirlwind Barbarian. It doesn't really require any like super amazing stuff. I understand it does require some uber uniques to get rolling, but so is pretty much most of the builds that we'll be talking about, because it's mainly going over what's the best endgame build, right? So Whirlwind Barb is just incredibly smooth, and it's incredibly tanky. That is one thing that I can't say the same with kind of the rest of the stuff, because Barbarian has options for, of course, Iron Skin that kind of trivialize content when you compare, you know, the brand new pit boss mechanics where you get those tormented stacks now, and the bosses can consistently just one-shot sometimes, and it feels very bad to be on the receiving end of those. So that's what I consider in like the S tier, the thing that most people want to know, and I want to go over the rest kind of fast here, as that's kind of my like early explanation. But I also want to go over something that I think is very important in the next upcoming season, and that is specifically all of the brand new buffs to some of the stuff that we may already use in the game, and some of these have actually gotten buffed more recently, like Ring of the Star of the Skies, but we can expect to see maybe some buffs to, hopefully, fingers crossed, some other uniques, as well as some of the items that are underperforming, like, let's say, the Melted Heart of Selig. So, in Season 5 specifically, a lot of builds will need to try to fit in these specific items. So, it's Ring of the Star of the Skies, it is the Sword of Varethel. Over here, if you're playing like a basic attack build, that could be the Heartseeker, the Bash Barbarian, you're going to definitely want to go ahead and throw these in most builds, as well as the Crown of Lucian, because, well, you get up to 125x damage, and this is not even an uber unique. And then, in addition with that, the Lochran's Talisman. These are all going to be huge for, of course, the next season. But I want to go ahead and go over the rest of them kind of fast over here. But I also want to mention that, again, I'm including all of the bugs. I actually was working on a list of, like, everything that was kind of bugged. And these bugs, by the way, because I know someone's going to comment and be like, Chain Lightning is not going to be an S tier build. They're going to nerf it. They're deleting it. I mean, when I uploaded my video, when I was watching other content creators, it was nothing but people just complaining about like, this is not going to exist in the real game. Who knows? There have been so many things that have been absolutely crazy busted for like the longevity of the game. Some of these have been bugged literally since the launch. Shatter still is kind of broken, right? Veers has been broken. I believe they're going to be fixing it, but the Veers mastery has been broken. There's been so many things like double dipping, quadruple dipping. There's so many crazy things in the game that have really not really been touched. And even when we had some of the stuff on the PTR, the only thing that I can and recall that absolutely just got like deleted was the Ebon Blight Necromancer build, which was kind of cool in the PTR if you played it from the last PTR, but that was the only thing that got like nerfed to the point where like it was not the same build at all. Sure, we had like the Frozen Orb and even like the Whirlwind Barb got nerfed a little bit. It was not to the level of, let's say, Necromancer. So some of these may slip by. I'm just saying that it is possible that some of these builds may slip by, like the Chain Lightning one over here, right? But going over what I want to go ahead and talk about right now is kind of the A tier. So what I also think is really good over here, we'll make this a little bit bigger because it's really tiny here. But looking at the A tier over here, this is what I would recommend. That is also brand new and very, very strong. So Flurry is definitely one of the best build options for melee rogue, with the exception of course Andariel's, but that's kind of a special niche thing. But also looking at things like Rapid Fire and or Barrage, those are all really great options, especially because you get the new Umbra Crux thing for the rogue. That's huge. Sword got a little bit of a nerf on a lot of different things actually, but specifically the Fire Bolt. Losing out on Immortality definitely makes it take a step down. Bone Spirit is actually going to be really good. You basically get the damage twice with the new, like, Imprison. It's pretty cool. Bash Barb is still going to be very strong. We actually already dropped, like, videos on that. Rapid Fire will actually be, again, really good, along with Pen Shot. Those are all going to be great things with the new buff, because we get, again, the Totem that basically gives us way more damage. I'm just going to warn you guys as a heads up, though. I would highly recommend you guys to try out Barrage and Rapid Fire before you try Pen Shot. And the reason why, Pen Shot does require you to aim a little bit more. It depends if you're playing on controller or on mouse and keyboard, but sometimes with the Pen Shot, you can get really, really awesome damage. There was a buff with Pen Shot that gives you a 25% chance for it to, like, basically activate again, so that can kind of help out. And again, when you have those totems, that really helps out. There's also some buffs to Pulverize. In fact, Druid overall got some massive buffs. Also, Landslide got a lot of different buffs, but I just want to warn you guys, I would probably stick away from Human Druid. There was some Human Druid buffs, and I tried it out. I don't think it's really good, though. But I still think that Landslide is still a good skill. It's just don't play it in human form. I just decided to spec into that because they decided to buff it. Didn't really find that many, like, great results specifically with human, because the damage reduction, I would say, is a little bit subpar when you're not in bear form, as that is pretty much what most people will be playing. Now, as far as other things that I put in, like, the B tier category over here, that are also brand new or got some sort of buffs. So Hurricane basically got the double damage. You can also run the Cataclysm. I kind of put that in the C tier here because it's really hard to play. But any variant of Hurricane, Cataclysm, Boulder, you can actually kind of mix those all in together, as Cataclysm, how it works is basically you just get 100x damage as long as you have Cataclysm out, and since it scales into the Hurricane duration, well, if you start ranking that up as far as masterworking, you can get some pretty good results. But again, it is pretty difficult to play because it requires really good flicker step placement in terms of like how you are going to be getting the cooldown, because a lot of slots will be filled in the next season, specifically with a bunch of the uniques. But also put Minions as well as Twisting Blades. So this was kind of a frequently asked question. Do I think the new Flurry is better or the Twisting Blades? Twisting Blades, way faster because you can teleport if you want to spec into that. But if you just want the raw damage, Flurry is going to be better. The problem that I had with Twisting Blades was the exact same problem that I had with the Boulder build that the Druid actually had, which was basically they would just delete themselves. So if you run into Suppressor, Waller, or Wind Wall, Twisting Blades just doesn't kill. Where Flurry, it doesn't care about those kind of conditions. So Twisting Blades, compared to Flurry, I will say Flurry is objectively going to be better in 99% of circumstances. Now, this is just raw. Flurry versus Twisting Blades, not really counting poison imbuement, as if you really want to do some poison damage, just play Andariel. It does way more damage. And you can actually play the build a lot smoother now when you just can spam Twisting Blades. You don't have to do combo points anymore, which is fantastic. But Flurry supports that even better because they want you to use consecutive casts of Flurry to really benefit in terms of damage. Now, as far as like other things that I want to go ahead and mention that are also new here, and before I get into like the rest of the builds here, as I just kind of want to cover the newer stuff specifically for Season 5 in this video, the other things that got some newer changes over here, like the Death Blow or even the Rupture Barbarian, those are still like okay in damage, but again, Flay kind of ties into Rupture. But if you just wanted the pure build with one of the new things called the Third Sword, if you're wondering, is that build any good? You just spam Death Blow. In my head, I was thinking that these are going to be crazy strong. However, they were kind of lackluster when you compared to, again, just the Whirlwind Barb's clear speed, which just dominating, and if you wanted good boss clear, Flay was just going crazy, or even Bash Barb was just really, really strong as well, and they were a lot smoother for their gameplay, where the other stuff will require you to not only get better gear, but it seemed like in terms of what I felt like was subpar performance. Another thing that I tried out that I thought was kind of meh is going to be the Companion Druid. The Poison Creeper is still probably bugged and doing some crazy things. That's why you're getting those quadrillion damage like screenshots. I don't really know exactly what's going on with that. It's probably in the same line of like some sort of chain lightning. Something's double dipping or quadruple dipping or something. It's doing crazy damage. But like you don't consistently get that every single time. So I'm going to put it in C tier. I felt like the build overall, the one thing that can also be a problem is like the pet's AI sometimes cannot be the best. When you need it to attack a very specific target, like what will have like some sort of damage reduction, like you have to target those, right, a lot faster. That can be a problem sometimes when the skill isn't on cooldown, but that, again, is kind of like a minion problem in general. But like Necromancer minions, by the way, I put them in B tier. They're not bad at all. It's just that when you compare it to how fast some of the other things can react, it's just going to be objectively slower. Over here, I also put like the Sorceress build for Lightning Spear is what this is supposed to be over here. I know it's Charged Bolts for the icon again. The site doesn't have everything. So, yeah, Lightning Spear could be okay. There's like some new aspect that lets you just deal damage. It's a super hard build because you have to get like super good masterworking on some of the crits to even make it viable, because basically you only deal damage on crits, and because it's not a core skill, it's going to be a lot harder to get there. But with some of the newer things like Lockrins and other things, you can maybe try to get a little bit closer to achieving a really high crit, but I would say I wouldn't recommend this for like most players. There's also some buffs to the Shred Druid, Hydra, but they seem lackluster. I mean, yeah, you maybe clear Pit 100, it'll take you some time. Arclash felt underwhelming as well. In fact, that new Vox Omnium staff, I already made like 2 dedicated videos towards that thing. That thing is absolutely terrible. You have a two-hander that gets 90x damage versus a one-hander that gets 300x. Like, it's a no-brainer. Why were these even designed in the same season? It looks like one of them was designed for Diablo 2, while the other one was designed for Diablo 3 numbers, right? But yeah, as far as Arclash goes, I didn't really like it too much. I didn't feel like it was absolutely insane. There's a new, like, I think it's like Herald of, was it Orange? Or something Orange, is it Herald of Orange or something? It's like a new, like, Herald thing that gives you better ultimate cooldown reduction, and then there's, like, a Hectic that you can run for Arclash. Still felt like it was underwhelming. As far as the Bone Spear build, not as good as Bone Spirit. That is way better. As far as Bash goes, over here, I wanted to mention, really quick, if you are playing the regular Bash Bar without the brand new item, specifically the item that gives you like crazy damage, if you don't play this item, okay, the Shard of Barathel, if you don't play it in your build, yes, you have to have that item, and if you do not have that, it is way worse. So you have to fit that item. That's just a quick little note here. The tempers on the Bash got heavily nerfed, but it's really not a nerf. You can see I put it in A tier as well. Just wanted to mention that as a side note, in case you wanted to play it, you do need to get that. That was just, again, for a note for myself. The rest of the stuff, you can pretty much play almost anything in the game. And the reason why I'm saying that you can pretty much play anything in the game and consider it to be about C tier, the reason why is whether you want to play anything in here, you just run the Crown of Lucion, the Lockrun's Talisman, and then you also get Ring of the Starless Skies, because you need to spend a resource for the basic skills, you will have pretty much a good build. And that's one thing that I think is kind of really cool with Season 5, is every build will basically be hugely powered, with specifically just getting some sort of setup with Ring of the Starless Skies, and then the Lockrun's Talisman, unless you're playing a dot build. But for the most part, every single build will be pretty much C tier. And I say pretty much because there's someone out there that's going to be like, I can't do any damage with like my Steel Grasp. Like, there are like very few exceptions where you will do like 0 DPS with some of the newer things, but that's pretty much going to be what I consider to be the best in Season 5. Again, I'm counting all the bugs, everything as it currently stands, so this way Blizzard can have some feedback to kind of see what they need to maybe adjust. But that's my personal opinion. Obviously, any build tier list is going to be subjective, but we'll have to update this when the season actually comes out. And if you guys are new here and you want to see that video, if we need to make adjustments, because sometimes things go completely unchecked. Bash Barb was noted in the PTR to be a top tier thing, and that thing just flew by. Nothing got nerfed on that. So if the chain lightning is there, that's what I'm going to be playing in Season 5, but what class are you going to be currently thinking about playing in Season 5? Absolute Sorceress if nothing changes, but if that gets nerfed, well, definitely going to be playing Rogue. Anyways, thanks for it, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.